Today, we put God on the witness stand.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Burnt on Religion. This is the podcast for those who have been burnt, who are currently burning, and those who are trying to avoid being burnt.
Mm-hmm.
I am Ashton, and picture this.
Picturing.
I am a pirate out at sea. I come across this
Weird
beach, and I see these two mermen sunbathing.
All right, cool.
Josh's and Josh's. Question, what color is your tail?
Purple.
I'll get back to you. I have vision problems. I've
No.
got salt in my eyes. I don't know. We're going blue. We're going blue.
Think about that. And you're welcome, by the way, for that vision.
Yeah. Now I'm visioning it, and
What do I look like as a merman?
yeah, not good. Not
Purple
good.
tail. I mean, that one I had. You'll pick it up, Josh. Again, this is one of those ones. Like, it's not that I've never. No, I've thought about it before. Yeah.
What?
I was ready with that answer.
Yeah.
You've
What
thought
are you
about
doing?
this?
What are you doing with your life?
Yeah.
Other things? I don't know. You know, like the topic we're going to talk about today. I think more of that than I do of.
I thought of
What
the
if I was a merman?
I thought of the topic, but a lot of thoughts and a lot.
I think mine would be crimson red.
Yeah, you've been around for long enough that you figured you'd have enough thoughts.
Yeah.
I have lots of thoughts, just never parked on the merman topic. Speaking of suffering,
Your loss.
It's one of those ones you always always be ready for an answer. You never know when someone's going to ask you just a weird question.
you never do.
Yeah.
You never do. I should have just.
I'm more equipped
snapped
for
with
weird
that
questions.
color.
That's the thing is I'm more equipped for weird questions than I should be. It's just
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're suffering with a little Dane Bramage over there.
yeah.
Yeah, it's okay.
Nah,
We still love him.
They just
It's fine. It's
it
fine.
just kind of happens.
Yeah.
I'm
Merman.
waiting to read those comments. Go ahead.
Yeah. If you have comments about that, drop those on burnt on
Ashton. Burnt on
Ashton.com. Yeah, just put them all there. It'll be fine. Well, let's. Why don't we address the topic of the day? And by the way, that wasn't it.
Oh.
All right. So we talked about it in our little opening here. We got to put God on the witness stand. So in last week's episode, we made a character profile for God that we actually have somebody to put on the witness stand.
Yes.
Because we had to deal with the fact that if God exists, did we make him up? And if so, where did he come from? Did someone make God? Where has he truly always been around? Did he start when we thought of him up, thought him up? Mm-hmm. And we were able to, I feel confident that we were able to put that to rest both logically and with scripture.
We found our
understand
guy.
that one through creation.
Yes.
And have that. So we have an understanding of who God is as the creator and an understanding of some of the aspects of him. And in those, basically we can take from that. He told us what he was. He told us that he's been there from the beginning and the end, and all things come through him, and all those things. So we ended last week's episode with what is going to be another thing. We're dealing with an aspect of God here that we understand that God is all powerful. If he is the creator and he is
all powerful.
He has the ability to create everything, then that, I've never met a painting that is out there telling its painter what to do. It is the painting is subject to the painter. The painter has the power over that painting.
Yeah, God's got some mad skills.
Yeah, so that the creator's got the power over that. So there's some power there, and he expresses that through word in his word, and we understand that one. But, and I've said it many, many times on this one, basic start, 1 John 4:16, he is not loving, God is love.
God is love.
God is love. He is not just a good God. He is good, and he's not just a loving, doesn't just care. No, he is love. He is the personification of love.
Yes.
And with that being said, we are now going to have to bring it down to the human element. So we talked about it with everything that we have.
And that's where it gets shaky.
We look at this creation that he has made. and we can look around and be like, okay, sorry state of affairs, to say the least. Okay, so it's for however many religious revivals I've been to and different things like that, we're not getting better. It doesn't appear.
Humanity?
No,
we're going downhill.
We always, we always can stay the ways. Humanity. We talked about it a little bit. We've got morals. We have an understanding of basic human morals, and you hope sometimes some it's skewed, but there's a basic understanding. But we are collectively, as mankind, we are not on the upward trajectory of morality.
Just look at the news.
Yeah.
It's there. You're never going to get to a day where you look at the news and go, "Wow, everything went well today."
This is the perfect day news-wise.
Never going to happen.
It's a lot of I can live with that for today. Or goodness, what does that mean for tomorrow? But it's there is so much. So again, to say the least, sorry state of affairs.
Yes.
So we are now dealing with an all-powerful God who is love and is just good.
Yeah, but there's got a conflict there.
Yeah, so apparently, and we did talk about that in the verse last time. He's not tired. He doesn't grow weary.
No.
His understanding is unsearchable. It's all these things. He gets it. He's not tired of trying to keep up with our maintenance and all this stuff. So and again, he remembers everything, so he didn't just forget about us.
Nope.
So why are we in the state we're in? If he is everything that he is, why are we in the state that we're in? Because it almost seems, and it's one of the most common issues that people have against, whether you want to say religion, whether you want to say God, whether you want to say just a belief system in general, is you almost seem to have a conflict of who God is and his character as a whole here.
Yeah, because I know my understanding of love, which, by the way, God's level of love supersedes anything that I can define.
Yep.
And we all three agree that agape love is huge. But on the level of love that I have, you put that topic of human trafficking out there.
Yep.
That's not good. If I had the power, if I was all powerful, and I really was love, you would think you'd figure out a way to shut that down now or yesterday. That's the conflict. That's where people run into this. Can I trust that God?
Yeah. Oh, and that's you understand because you think in the human mind it's not even you find a way to shut it down. It's that's done.
Yeah. Who cares how?
No more. And those people are gone.
Yeah. Puffs of smoke.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's the fix. That's the concept. That's done.
And they had it coming.
Yeah.
Yeah. No problem.
And there is even the human morality. You're almost like, okay, I can live with that. Again, the news.
I'll be able to sleep tonight. Yeah. Just snap your finger on that one, and it's fine. We would all be able to sleep well tonight if we knew we stopped that.
Yeah.
Even in a violent way. Who cares? It's over.
Yeah.
We would be able to look at that topic and say, well, if I had all power,
Yeah.
And God does have all power.
Yeah.
So what? So next witness, let's put him on the witness stand.
Yeah.
And let's talk about this.
Sir.
And that's so that brings us to it. So let's again, if we're going to cross-examine here, and we're going to deal with it,
right?
I think you still need to build almost the character of our witness here. So we've talked about it. Okay, so we know who he is. We have this, so we're going to have build it across. So we've talked about it. Okay, so you say that you love.
Right.
You say it. So a question I'll pose to both of y'all right here. Both of y'all, married men, both of y'all got children, both of y'all come from families, have had relationships with parents and siblings and different things like that, have an understanding of love. What is it?
Explain love?
Yeah. What is it?
That's-
What is love?
I'd say it's sacrifice is a huge part in that. A huge part of that definition. I will give up.
Yeah.
I will give up so much because I love that person. It is them instead of me in so many areas. A kid's hungry. There's only enough food for me or the kid. Kid wins.
Yeah.
It's self-sacrifice. That's one element of it. Go, Ashton. It's on
man,
you.
go.
Go.
Man, that's a big topic. So, teaching right from wrong, wanting the best
There you go.
future for your child. My parents said this, and I've said it too to my kids. Is I want you to have a better lifestyle than what I had growing up. I want you to be equipped with tools and knowledge that I never had or wasn't able to get. I want you to be the best person that you can be. Not that, I don't want you living in my shadow. I don't want you to be programmed a certain way. I want you to understand who you are as an individual. Show empathy towards others, respect, care for yourself and care for others. I mean, there's a big list, and it's definitely one of those things. Growing up, you never realize what you thought it meant versus
right.
Your dad punished me or my dad punished me or whoever, and it's like, man, that is not love.
Right.
But then hindsight, you're like, man, I'm glad.
You can see the love later.
Something was installed in me.
Yeah.
But
There was a personal investment there. It's an action. Love is an action, not just it's not a noun. It's an action that has to take action.
Yeah. No, and it's funny. We my wife and I just had this conversation last night. Oddly enough, before we even talked about having this podcast and doing this particular conversation for this part of the topic, and so just a couple weeks ago, I had our daughter, and we have different things, and you talk about it, and you're like, hey, thank you for doing this, and your task, because babies you're always doing stuff, and you're running around, but and she'll say, hey, that was, thank you for doing that, you've been good about that, that's awesome, thank you.
Right.
And my response was, and we were talking about it, and I told her in this conversation about different things, and I said to her, because she said something about, well, you've been a good day, being kind, being the wife, encouraging as we sit awake at 2 or 3 in the morning after that feeding, you've been a good dad, and I told her, she makes it easy.
Right.
The baby does not make it easy in terms of the work because, nothing's easy.
Yeah, it'd be easy if she just slept through the night and didn't have to eat.
But
problem solved.
But that little girl laying right there who was passed out after changing the 4th diaper,
right,
and going through the 2nd bottle, makes it easy
because you love her.
Because I love her so much.
Yes.
And it was weird. I told her that has nothing to do, and I love my wife, but it has nothing to do with my wife.
Right.
It has nothing to do with the lineage that this little girl comes from.
Right.
It has nothing to do with her life. It has everything to do with the fact that is my daughter.
Right.
And I love her. And
Right.
so anything I do, I have no problem doing because of who she is to me. And so, and you told me this out the jump, and I remember you talking about this when I told you that we were going to have a little one. Like, you don't know it till you had one. You don't know certain aspects of love till you had one. And everyone's told me that. And and I understand that one. Love is that. And I remember this. And so when I think of it now, especially at this point in my life, I think of her right now. I think of my daughter.
Right.
And you all, as I say that, you have the faces, and we all do. You say it, and I think of her, but we have faces that run through our head. We have different ones.
Right.
Okay? So, with that being said, take all those faces out. Don't think about those faces.
Right.
So what does love look like without them?
Without those people?
Yep.
You have to have a person. There is no love without a recipient. You have to have a recipient.
Yeah.
You have to have. You have to have.
Yeah.
There has to be.
I'm trying so hard to think of something else. I'm like, well, self-love, but then at the same time,
No.
that's
No.
You can't share that. You can't experience
Love-
what somebody else.
I
Can
say
experience.
there's certain reasons for it, but again, and that is the point I'm going at.
Right.
Is
Yeah.
When I think about it, if I think about love, and if I'm thinking about God in that personification of love, if I'm thinking about agape love, whatever it may be,
Right.
I cannot disassociate it from those faces,
Nope.
from my daughter, from those people. Love has to have a recipient.
Must. Yes.
Otherwise,
It's not love.
it ceases to be.
That's right.
And I think that is the first building block. That's going to be our cornerstone here
Right.
as we begin to build our defense for why we're in the state we're in
Yeah.
and why there isn't the intervention that we as humanity would like to see.
Right.
I think we need to understand that is first that God is love. Love has to have a recipient. We have to understand what love truly is before we can understand why there is or isn't this level of intervention that we think should or should not be there.
So we had to be created because love has to have a recipient. Now, God is love. And like we talked last time, God is outside of time and space. He's outside of that. So you think, how long did he last before he created us? No time at all, because time wasn't there. So yeah, he created us because love has to have a recipient. It must. So here we are. Here we are. But there is this question that comes up. If he really loved us and he really did, he wants the best for us, right?
Yep.
God wants the best for us. You remember that chapter in the Bible where God says, oh, by the way, in the Garden of Eden, I'm going to put this tree of knowledge of good and evil. And if you eat of it, bad things will happen, and stay away from it then. If you love your kid and you say, hey, by the way, I don't want you to touch the burner, wouldn't it be easier just not to put the burner in there? If you're the one that's going to put it there, like, hey, I'm going to create this burner situation, and I don't want you to touch it because it's going to hurt you, you could ultimately say, you know what? Let's just skip the burner part.
Yeah, no burner.
No burner, and they won't disobey me. They won't get hurt. That would be a loving situation, right?
Yep.
You would think. So God says, you know what? There's a burner situation here. I'm going to create it anyway. I'm going to create this tree of knowledge of good and evil, and I'm going to put it right in front of him and say, don't touch the burner.
Yep.
That's where we get conflict of interest as far as, hey, God, looks like things are looking bad for you. Looks like you caused the problem. But that's not what's going on here at all. That's not what's
It
happening.
almost seems like he didn't protect them from
Right.
a possible issue,
Right.
which ended up obviously becoming an issue.
And he knew it.
Yes, and he knew it would be an issue because as you read further in the book, there was a plan in place for said issue. That was always the plan because
Yeah.
he knew this would be an issue.
Right. Right.
But there's an element of understanding that, okay, there's another aspect of it. So we have to go back to the foundation and our cornerstone and our building block. So it needs a recipient. We've talked about it.
Yes.
Love needs a recipient, and we have that. So we can also go about everything else that makes it a fundamental piece of the puzzle. Josh, when you met your wife, do you love her?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
So, if we're going to go with the concept of
Good answer.
intervention and all these different
That's how
things
you
like
answer
that.
those questions, Ash.
Intervention and all these things that if we're going to maintain the same mindset that we have to maintain, and we will explain ourselves, I promise.
Yep.
That we have to maintain in order to keep the mindset that God must intervene when we need him to intervene and control the things that we need to control. When you met your wife,
Right.
how long had you been betrothed to one another?
Oh, boy.
And so, and how long did it take you to be good with that choice that was not your own, that was ultimately made for you out there because if we're going to maintain the same mindset, we have to, in order to understand this level that we need God to intervene whenever we need him to intervene.
Okay.
We need to understand love, that same concept. So we need to know what it was like for you to love your wife when it was all arranged and set up and,
When it was all arranged and set up.
Yeah, when you two just... How did you grow to love her since, it wasn't your choice, but it was...
But it was my choice.
Elaborate on that, would you?
A betrothal, for one. Let's talk about betrothal. Check this out. I met my wife one day. 10 days later, I proposed to her. By the way, this is not good advice. Any teenagers listening, cut this out. So 10 days after I met her, I proposed to her. I met her on August 11th, and the next January 11th, we were married. And we have been married for 28 years now and love each other all the way. Love each other. I would give my life for her. I still love her to this day. So our betrothal period, let's talk about that. That didn't exist. But I saw this person, I saw who she was, and I chose to give my all to her. I loved her. I chose to love her. So my betrothal period, I don't know what we're talking about there. This arranged marriage thing, not a lot of time for the arrangement. It just kind of happened. So maybe I'm derailing you there, or maybe I'm falling right into what you're trying to say. But
Exactly.
The Middle Eastern setup did not happen in my life.
No. And it's good. And it's all just a long, confusing way to basically say, okay, and we'll explain ourselves as we go. If we are going to have to maintain this idea that God has to intervene when we demand that he intervene, and that God has to have this control over this everything.
Right.
Okay. You are basically taking a relationship in which you have people who say that they love each other,
Right.
in which you say is love, but you're saying that, okay, one party in this or the parties in this had no choice. This was deployed. This was arranged and set up this way.
It's mandatory.
It is required to be this way.
Right.
And that is, and again, we'll explain what you have to keep if we're going to go into this. Because what we have here in the garden and what you have with that burner, and the burner is a situation, there's difference and there's nuance to this and whatnot. What we have is the opportunity for God to have his creation. He has us, and it's the perfect thing. We talk about it all the time on here. Relationship. It's what we want. It's what God wants.
Yep.
It's everything.
Yeah.
That's all it is. That's what before religion.
It's all about.
Before we talked about on episode 1, before religion, there was relationship. That's what we had.
Right.
And religion was what got in the way of it. When it's, hey, you could do better because you
Self-effort.
you know what to do and you can do those things.
Right.
Yeah. But when it was just that, this is here. And the reason it's here is not because I'm trying to trip you up. I'm not trying to be like that. Okay?
Right.
But if it's not there, so everyone's like, I need God to intervene. I need him to be this way.
Right.
But okay, now God takes it out and says, now you will love me and be like this. You are my automatons. You are the robots of my subservience.
Right.
And you will follow me no matter what. You get no choice. Everybody kicks back against that just as much. No one likes that God either.
No, we say then you get no love if you're going to make.
If I'm cross-examining that guy, that's a lose-lose on both sides if he's that way.
Right. He can't be that way.
So if he is love, that has to be there.
Mm-hmm.
The choice has to be there. Now we can talk about poor choices made, but
Sure. Yeah. And there were poor choices,
But-
mistakes were made.
we can understand that choice being there. You talk about how you love your wife.
Right.
When you met her, something, and that was it.
Right.
You chose to love her. Nobody
Yes.
set that up.
Nope.
There wasn't anything about that. There was no, she wasn't forced anything. You weren't forced anything. You chose that. You guys have been together for nearly 30 years now.
Right.
All by choice. And
Yes.
that is and that's why you can call it love.
Because it was chosen.
because it was chosen.
Yes, because love is always a choice.
And that is exactly right. That is the other aspect of this cornerstone
Right.
that we have to maintain, that yes, love requires a recipient,
Yep.
but it also has to be a choice.
Right.
And this is where we really begin to hit the ground running as we start to talk about, okay, why doesn't God intervene? Choice.
Yeah, we have free will.
Free will.
We have free will. If love is mandatory, and I hate to use this illustration, but rape is forced intimacy. There's no love love cannot be forced, because then all you have is you despise the person who forced you into that intimate relationship. God's not that way. Love has to be chosen. It has to be a free will. So God puts this choice in the Garden of Eden. He puts a tree of knowledge of good and evil, because if you don't have the opportunity to choose to love, if you don't have the opportunity to reject him, then you also don't have the opportunity to love him. The choice has to be there, and love has to be chosen. So, but this is the part that people miss, because a lot of times we put God on the witness stand and we say, well, God, this is how it is. I would do this if I was all powerful. If I could stop human trafficking, it would have already happened.
Yeah.
You know, it would have been done. But we miss this other aspect of the Genesis account. And it's in Genesis chapter 1 and verse 26. Then God said, "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the heaven, over the livestock, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth." God put us in charge. He gave us dominion. And people look at that and say, what does that mean? He gave us dominion over the earth. He created everything. That doesn't mean he's not involved.
Yeah.
Let's throw that in there. He's still God. He's still involved. He still gives us free will, and he's still part of this thing. But he gives us dominion. Our environment ended up suffering a little bit,
Yep.
with our management skills.
Yes.
Or lack thereof.
Or lack thereof.
Lack thereof.
Yes. So he gave us the environment to perform that free will in, that he set up. I give you the option to choose, and I give you an environment to choose those options.
Yep.
And I'm going to say we boogered it up.
Yes. No, it's leave it to humanity, especially as one coming from myself. I'll just speak for myself. As someone who has Wonder Woman's bracelets when it comes to blame, I'm great at
Okay,
I can block blame like nobody's business.
Gotcha.
Like, again, hey, you really messed up. I'm like, yeah, but I probably wouldn't have done it if you would have done this.
Okay, right, sure. Right.
Leave it at that. Leave it to humanity.
Yep.
As one who's really good about doing it, to be like, okay, yeah, listen, we're in a bad state of affairs, but God could really help us out here.
Right.
And he's like, well, listen, you're in charge. We often take ourselves out of the role we play in the suffering and the
Right.
part that has taken place in the earth,
Right.
and the world, and again, our role in it. And that seems to be a big aspect of this topic and what
Our
has
dominion.
taken place. Our dominion.
Yeah,
We're
we
in
don't think
charge
about
of
that.
it. No.
Right. No, it's his fault. Right.
No, we have those things. You have the natural follow-up of, again, Genesis 2:17. But of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, you shall not eat, for in the day that you eat of it, you shall surely die. Okay.
Right.
Spiritual death upon humanity.
We spoke about that.
We have
yes.
that one.
Yep.
We can have it. But on top of that, you have Romans 5:12. Therefore, just as through one man sin entered the world, and death through sin, and thus death spread to all men because all sinned.
Okay.
So we have sin coming into us,
Yep.
and through Adam and Eve. So a sinful man cannot produce the righteous. It cannot produce a righteous, perfect man again.
No, unrighteousness cannot produce
It cannot.
righteousness.
It is not.
Exactly. True.
That explains humanity.
So we
There's-
keep photocopying this
yes,
problem.
the issue. But when we did that, and there's parts of that brought it into our dominion. We brought it in. When management has an issue, the company tends to have an issue.
Everything under that management will
Exactly.
suffer.
Yeah.
And so
Right.
we just happen to be born in the time in which we get to see, the current trickle down effect because we
Yeah.
just happen to be alive now.
Right, yes.
So
Yeah.
it's just we are down the road from said trickle down effect.
Right.
And this is what we see.
Right.
So in defense of our client here, God on the
Okay.
thing for who is love and whatnot, I think the first element of defense, again, looking at his character and seeing as that it holds up for right now, is it's kind of our fault too. It's kind of our fault too. And when I say too, I mean let's blame Adam and Eve. And then it's gonna fall all the way down to us as well.
Yeah, let's point
And-
fingers at them first.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
It's not just me.
I'm
Again,
okay with this.
deflect.
Yeah,
Deflect.
yeah, it's that whole they
also
started
it's
it.
mainly them,
Right.
but it's also going to be us. And it's not him. It's let's take our role in it as humanity.
Yeah.
Being the first line of defense, we have to understand that we have a part to play in the fact that this was given to us, and we boogered it up like you said.
We did. Real
Yes.
bad. Real bad.
Yeah.
We did.
And basically, we're left with a fallen dominion.
Right.
We are,
He put us in charge of that, by the way.
yeah.
Yeah,
So-
we've got a little bit of an issue going on because we have to take responsibility.
Yeah, we're stuck. So again, just to prove it, Genesis 3, starting with verse 17. Then to Adam he said, "Because you have heeded the voice of your wife, and have eaten from the tree of which I commanded you, saying, you shall not eat of it. Cursed is the ground for your sake. In toil you shall eat of it all the days of your life. Both thorns and thistles it shall bring forth for you. And ye shall eat the herb of the field, and the sweat of your face. You shall eat bread till you return to the ground. For out of it you were taken. For dust you are, and to dust you shall return."
Right. Right.
So,
He does say for your sake.
yeah. So,
Oh, that's
just to again, we can sit here all doom and gloom. We can blame them. We can take our part in it too. But again, we always say it on here. Never take our word for it. There it is in black and white
Right.
from a more credible source
Yeah.
than just us. This is our dominion. It was given to us by a client we still haven't been able to
Unclear to me.
besmirch.
Sure.
We
Right.
can't besmirch their character just yet. We
Nope.
still have questions, but we can't besmirch their character just
Right.
yet.
Yeah. Yes. That's a good word.
Oh, I know, right?
Yeah.
Edumacated.
Right.
But
Yes. Right.
but we can obviously give defense for the fact that we have a fallen dominion that was given to us, to humanity, and we can clearly see it there from Scripture. It is fallen. It is our fault.
Yes.
And so the state of affairs that we exist in is on nobody else's shoulders but our own.
No, because he said, "Cursed is the ground for your sake." The term "for your sake" means on account of you.
Yeah.
So, look what you've done.
Yeah.
The ground is cursed because it's under your management, and everything under the management suffers with the bad decisions of the management. So this world is in in a bad state, and it's not God's fault. He gave us the warning, that verse you read earlier.
Yeah.
Hey, don't eat this, because in the day you eat of it, bad things are coming.
Yeah.
So don't do it.
die.
We're like, I'll do it anyway. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, now the
What
curse,
could
the ground is
possibly
cursed.
go wrong?
What could possibly go wrong? So the ground is cursed on account of you. So your dominion has fallen. Your environment has now changed, and we live among suffering and disease and death and all these other things that God did not bring upon us. We brought that upon ourselves.
Yes.
hooray.
That's what happened. So God never wanted it for us. This is just our environment. And one thing, we live in Missouri, which is, by the way, the classic weather enigma. It was 80 degrees
this
today.
weekend.
Yeah.
It happened where what was it? Was it Friday where it was 60 and then we stepped outside to let the dogs out and it was snowing that
Snowing.
night?
Right,
Yep.
and it was 80 today, and we have a chance of snow tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then it'll go back. This is just Missouri, and by the way, we don't flinch. It's just like if we walk
Happens.
outside and lava's falling from the sky, we're like, I guess that's Tuesday. So it's just how Missouri
Volcano
works.
must have erupted.
Right, yeah, it's just another day. But
Must be
we
warm.
live in Missouri, and I can complain about my environment all I want, and I can move to Colorado if I would like to. I can move to Colorado. Now I have have to give up my desire to breathe. If I chose to live in Colorado, because the altitude's kind of, the air's thin. And then if I'm in Colorado, I'm like, I don't like this, and I move to Mississippi, now I've got to learn to breathe underwater because the humidity's so high.
Yeah.
The problem, what I'm trying to say is, if your environment, if this is your environment, if you don't want to breathe underwater, don't move to Mississippi. And if you love to breathe, don't move to Colorado.
Yeah.
because the environment is going to be like that. We created this environment ourselves by bringing sin into the issue. God did not. He created our dominion. He gave us that dominion, and we turned it into Missouri.
Spiritually speaking. You didn't have to say it that way.
But we turned it into man, it could be a good day or a bad day. It can really be rough, or it could be a good situation or a bad situation. But it was our management that caused the problem.
Yeah.
We changed our own environment. We can't point fingers at him.
No.
It would be wrong to do so.
It is. And again, it's another part of it that's so cool, and we talk about it all the time. And we talked about it in the last episode, and I'll bring it up again. It's another one of those ones that as we talk about these episodes and we bring up these topics that no matter what, and relationship was more on the nose for this one, but it comes back to it, and then just the cool elements of how it all ties back in and how we get back to it, and just to see it in the lights of all the, no matter what topic you're approaching, the fact that relationship comes back into it in a light somewhere is one of the coolest things ever.
And it happens all the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
Is that, okay, so we talk about all this. We have this environment that's established. We have this tree that was put there. And we've already touched on it a little bit. We have a tree that was put there. We have a tree that was put there because it has to be put there, because it has to be choice. Because if he is love, not loving, he is love, the recipients are there.
Yep.
And the choice is there.
Right.
Choice was made poorly, and we are living with the current consequences of said choice.
That's right.
But with the choice being made, that's not the end of said plan. And this is where, again, it gets cool.
Yeah.
And we touched about it a little bit. That was never the plan.
Right.
Because the plan was
before
already established
Right.
outside of time.
Yeah.
Like we talked about in the last episode. Before our time even began, this plan was out here established already.
Right.
That there was another plan in place.
Right.
That this environment that we created, and he knew it was going to be kind of cruddy.
A disaster.
It's awful. And he said, doesn't matter. I'm going there.
Right.
And I'm going to do that. I'm going to go through that environment. And he went through every element, and always, and likewise tempted, just as we were, he saw his loved ones die. He struggled. He went through he was hungry.
Yeah.
The basic struggles of life.
Yes.
He went through everything.
Yeah.
And he did it all for that, because of love. He did it to go get those recipients back.
Because he loves them.
Yes.
Exactly.
Even with the choices made, knowing the choice that they were going to make was bad.
Yes.
The plan was already in place. And he said, all right, this is what's in place. I'm going to go get them.
Right.
And it was already happening because this is what I knew was going to happen.
Yeah.
And so here we are again. And he goes into that environment, into Missouri, which again,
misery.
He just was awful to
I'm really disappointed
our wonderful
with what you
home
guys
state.
have done.
So, and he comes in and he goes through everything he goes through, and of course, the cross and the suffering and the death of that.
Yeah.
To put relationship back on the table.
Right.
To put that choice, to put that love back out there, because. And we talked about this several episodes ago, the runaway train.
Yeah.
There was no other way out of here.
No, it's as bad as you made it, guys.
Now we're back, and we are now back to where relationship is our answer. It is our option. And he was willing to go through all that for us. And we know that, and that's established. But that's not the question we're trying to answer here. So we have to establish that and understand that one. But I think an easy one that we can do with, and I'll present this one to Ashton, okay? So we're going to hit you with this question right here of God, all right?
I'm going to sit back and relax.
All right. Let's hit you with all the evidence that's presented before you. You're going juror number one,
Here we go.
Let's go with it. Okay. So you have a God who is love. So you have to have choice. You have to have a recipient. Okay. So you have those things established.
Okay.
We already understand that it was humanity's fault. Humanity messed up. They're the ones who didn't do it. And you have someone who had a plan in place, knowing that we would be in this situation and we would do these things, but we're still in the state we're in. Okay? Now, we're still in the state we're in because this is still our domain.
Right.
Okay.
This is still ours. Now, again, you talk about you have children,
Yes.
your wife, you have different ones, you have family members, and they have their things. Now, if you go in to those people that you love and you take their stuff and you just control it however you want to do it, how do they feel about you? And would you feel the same way about the God in this scenario if he did the same to our stuff right now? Whether good or bad. Whether good or bad. Because again, if we're talking about, okay, so he takes out human trafficking. We're all for that.
Yes.
All good about it. Okay? But if he's at our beck and call, if he's at our whim, where does it end? Where does God end in that one? If we can have him intervene for what we think is good and what's right, this is what makes me happy and this is what brings me the joy. Because you love me, do this for me. And this is the end of the beck and call. Where do we draw the line? Is that a God you can defend?
Defend. Oh, man, I'll put it like this. So if I come in like a wrecking ball and pretty much dictate my family's life and what they can have, can do, can't do, what they, how they do their hair and all that stuff, that is, I know they would not view me as a loving person. And I would not be a loving person because, again, I took the toys away. They can't be them, and that is what makes everybody unique is the individuality and what they have to offer. And if I take that away, that's nowhere close to me being loving towards them and allowing them to be them. And I could never back anybody, let alone a God that would just be that wrecking ball. Yeah,
everything.
That would just be terrible.
I agree, because I was going to say, I wouldn't even call you loving, let alone say that you have to embody the personification of love itself.
As much as I would kids walk down the stairs and their hair is all crazy. I'm like, I'm not going out in public. Well, I guess I have to go out in public.
There's so many issues I would love to fix.
Then I just hindsight, looking back in life, there's those little things do matter. It is them learning and the building blocks and things like that. So I mean, that's that's the next step in life.
I think this is a really good thought because, and here's the at the beginning of this episode we said it. If we were all powerful, we would go ahead and change certain things, right? Here's what people don't understand is God is all powerful, but he cannot do all things. And I know that sounds like it's contradicting itself, but it's not. God is all powerful, but he cannot do all things. And what I mean by that is if he took your free will away, then he'd be defying his own character of love. Yeah. He can't do that. Is he all powerful? Yes. Can he do that? No. He is all powerful, but he's not going to defy his own character or ruin the relationship to wield his power. He can't do that because that would defy who he is as love. So yes, God is all powerful, but no, he can't do all things. And we have to offer grace to that understanding.
Yeah. No, it's one where it was weird to try to explain that to some people, even to understand for myself in times where early on when I would approach this topic, I had to think of, okay, so God's hands off. I had to think of God as hands off. And then I had to think about that more. I'm like, no, God's not hands off.
No, he's not.
I was like, God was incredibly hands on, is still
All
incredibly
in.
hands on,
Yes.
is always hands on.
Right.
But it's not okay. It's always the one where as a child, my dad's working on the car. My dad is working on the car
Better hold the
to make the car
flashlight and know what tool you need.
on the flashlight. Okay, so my dad is not arranging the toolbox. He's telling me to go get the tool. He's telling me to go get the flashlight.
Right.
He's telling me to go get the wrench, whatever it may be. He is actively working on the car.
Yes.
He's always working on the car.
Right.
Okay. Now, my dad is not coming over there and arranging that toolbox for me, though it would be easier if everything was laid out and I knew
Sure.
where everything was
Sure,
and whatnot. But my dad has put all the tools in there.
Uh-huh.
That is my dad's toolbox. I know that everything is in there because that is his tools. He is in charge. He has put it there.
Right.
That is his.
Right.
But he is working, and he is working hard actively.
Yeah.
But I'm working to help him. But it is just trying to understand that I don't have him to come do my job
Right.
for me, or the job I need him to do when I need him to do it. He is working on something all the time, and he can help me when I need it. No, it should be in the third drawer. It should be this and that.
Right.
He is there. But he's done all the work for me.
Right.
He has done all the work I need him to do for me because he's working at all times.
Right.
He's got bigger pictures. He's got bigger projects.
Yes. Right.
What I'm doing is important. It is helping. It is doing what I can. But what he's done is important, and he's always working. He's not, okay,
Right.
waiting for me to do this and waiting for me
Nope.
to do that.
Always involved.
You know, he's always monitoring. He's always doing this. The world is in the state we're in, and when the toolbox would always get, everything is on the wrong place. That was always my fault because I'm just like,
Right.
hey, I need this. Okay, and I went and I tossed it in there and I
Sure.
pulled out another one.
Right.
That's the state we're in. We just tossed it in whatever drawer fits, and then we're pulling whatever it works now.
Yeah.
And then he'd have to go back through and fix it all, and then it would be like, okay,
Yeah.
remember to go get it. And all right, cool. And then I'd toss it back in the wrong place, and I'd always
Right.
put it back.
Yep.
That's the situation we're in.
Yeah.
Everything's in the wrong place.
Right.
It was all in the right place. It's all in the box. Everything is in the box that we need.
Yeah.
And is constantly, if it's lost, it's fixed.
Yeah.
It's always put back. He's always got his hands on the project. He's always there.
Yeah.
It's us that haven't managed it well.
It's the decisions. It's the result of poor management is
Yep.
what we have, and that's why there's so much suffering. But one day he is going to return. He is coming back, and that promise is there. And I really want to end with this thought because it's huge. Romans 8:19 says, "For the creation waits with eager longing for the revealing of the sons of God. For the creation was subjected to futility, not willingly." Our creation, not willingly, but it's got sucked in here. But because of him who subjected it, which, by the way, that's us, in hope that the creation itself will be set free from its bondage to corruption and obtain the freedom of the glory of the children of God. Jesus is going to return one day, and he's going to take our dominion, and he's going to reset that to the way he intended it at the very beginning. But he had to allow free will. Love had to be a choice.
Yep.
And in the end, it will be all those that chose to love him, that chose to be in that relationship with him, where we will be given a dominion that's actually restored again.
Yep.
So that promise is there. But suffering came because of how we used that free will he gave us in the first place.
Yep.
And one day he's going to fix it, but we can't point to him and say, it's your fault, God.
No. And it rains on the just and the unjust.
Because he's loving.
There are bad things that happen. There is,
Yep.
life's not fair sometimes, but God is fair.
That's why it
and
still rains.
and that's why
Yeah.
it still rains.
That's right.
And he is. If we didn't have the choice, if everyone would kick back just as hard as he cannot be who he is.
We'd hate him.
Yeah. If
Be
it was
mandatory,
if it was mandatory now, if it was told now, hey, you have the choice, but you don't. If he was the tyrant of love,
Yeah.
then there is no.
Micromanager. We all hate
There's
him.
a whole different thing. And then if we never had the choice to not love him, then he's not love.
Right.
Because then he can't be the personification of it.
Right.
And so why do we exist in the state that we exist in? Because he has to be that.
Right.
And we have to choose it. We messed up.
Yeah.
And we continue to mess up. And not only us, but our whole dominion, this whole world suffers for it. It will be fixed. One day it will be better.
Because he still seeks to redeem us in spite of our
Yep.
current condition.
Because there was a plan in place,
Yes,
it will be fixed.
that's right.
But as we look around and we see the things around us, and you're like, man, sorry state of affairs.
Right.
It is got to take our lump in this one. We have to understand it's not his fault.
Nope.
It's not his choice. We can't blame him. And it's one of those ones where we can look around and understand that, okay, I may not understand it, but I know that he is love. And he had to give us choice. And
Yeah.
some people may not make the best choices anymore because some people didn't make the best choices. And I'm not going to make the best choices all the time anyway either.
Right.
But I can understand through this light of relationship who he is and that he is love. And I can understand that. And I can continue to work myself towards that because
Right.
he is what he is, and that's not changing.
And he's
so
always right. He's
that
always
is
he's
true.
never going to do what's wrong. And
Yep.
we say, yeah, but that's wrong, God. Well, his ways are higher than our ways. His thoughts are higher
Yeah.
than our thoughts. He does understand things we don't
Yep.
understand. And we have to be yielded and understand we've got a lot of learning to do. And don't worry, he's got this.
Like we talked about in the last episode, I don't have to think he's cruel if I know he's love.
That's right.
And if I could, I'll just end with this quote. This is an awesome quote. We talked about it beforehand.
Yeah.
And it's one of my favorites. It's by J.M.L. Mohnsaber. And he said, if God would concede me his omnipotence or his power, his all power, for 24 hours, you would see how many changes I would make in the world. But if he gave me his wisdom too, I would leave things as they are.
That's right.
And I think that's just an awesome quote, and it's helped me for a lot of years. I think
Right.
it's a neat one. So,
Yeah.
again, we want to thank you all for being with us. It's a good question, and we hope we put up a good defense for why things are the way we are, but why God is not to blame and why it's on us.
Yep.
But again, thank you for being with us this week. We hope to see you next time.
See you next time.